Welcome, everyone. My name is Susan Patterson, and I am a national leader in the fight against human trafficking. In about 30 seconds, you'll be invited into a work group meeting made up of men who have been successful at engaging men in anti-human trafficking efforts. This work group meeting is part of a series of interviews with men who are experts in the fight against human trafficking and child exploitation. This video and the other videos that are part of the series are offered on my channel, whose mission is to mobilize the community by teaching everyone their part in the fight to prevent sexual exploitation. You can find the channel link in the video description below, as well as links for the projects the men refer to in their meeting. Please do subscribe to this channel and like and share this video. Thank you for watching.
I want to welcome everyone again to our second meeting as men taking leadership in this fight against human trafficking, because this is something that is so incredibly vital to actually ending human trafficking. Since men are contributing as the perpetrators of this and have been for a very long time, it's now time to inspire each other as men to step up, to say this has got to end. This is not the time for human trafficking to be swelling and growing. It's time for it to be shrinking and ending. And this is the contribution we want to make as men. So I want to welcome you again to this opportunity to brainstorm and talk together as men who have had this placed in their hearts as something that they just cannot let go. So first, I'd like to introduce you to those of us who are on this call today, those who are going to meet with. Let's start with you, Joe.
Hi, I'm Joe Sullivan. I'm a deacon in the Catholic Church, and I, with a couple of others, have put together a talk that we give to men's groups to try to help them understand what human trafficking is, how it's being caused, and what they can do about it.
Excellent. And Reverend Bowie.
Yes, my name is Oliver Bowie, and I'm the pastor of Angeles Mesa Presbyterian Church in the city of Los Angeles. And also, I am one of the leaders of the Black Faith Coalition Against Human Trafficking. And I'm here to stand together with my brothers and connect with all those who are fighting this great evil that continues to seem to grow. But we are here to work together so we can put an end to human trafficking wherever it takes place.
Great, thank you so much. And Isaac.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Isaac McKeithen, leader of the Orange County Slingshots and also a leader in the Black Faith Community Coalition. And here just to give you more information about how you can get involved in this fight against human trafficking.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being here. And Yusuf.
I'm Yusuf Miller. I'm the founder of Mosques Against Trafficking, and I'm also on the San Diego County Anti-Human Trafficking and Commercial Sexual Exploitation of Children Advisory Council. And I'm also the co-chair of the community subcommittee. And as everyone else here, we try to engage men as much as possible to help us in the crisis that we've caused. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we have a new fellow joining us today, Rogelio. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Rogelio Gonzalez. Everybody calls me Ro. So, but I have a passion that I want to share, that God has been pushing me to help fight this cause, against this cause. And I just feel I just want to join together with other men that could bring this to a stop. Men are the cause of this problem. Men can stop this problem. That's what I want to bring to everybody.
Thank you so much. Thanks everyone for being here. And myself, Patrick Erlandson, I first got involved in becoming really deeply aware of human trafficking about 10 years ago, and have ever since kind of been trying to engage on the prevention side of human trafficking through Men Standing Against Trafficking, through starting a father conference, and most recently through a film and art festival called See It, End It, to engage the entertainment and the influencers that are shaping our culture. And I think that brings me to kind of what we want to talk about today. I think last time we talked about, men stepping up as leaders and how to engage as leaders in this fight against human trafficking. And this time I really want to look and really open it up to how we can talk about how we engage men and what's happening with men today, and how we can bring more men on board to feel that this is something that they can't just ignore, or that they continue to feel that this is a victimless crime. I want to start by just kind of really acknowledging what's happening in Canada, which I'm not sure how many of you know, but our brothers and sisters up in Canada have really brought the fight against pornography to their parliament, which is now holding hearings with MindGeek, which owns the largest distributors of pornography worldwide through Pornhub and some of their other tentacles. But they're finally being held to account for what they've done, and that they've, the porn industry has been capitalizing on and making money from the slave labor of human trafficked victims around the world. And this is something that to me, I've seen so many men, so many fathers, so many good guys getting derailed from the love they want to have in their homes, the families that they intended to raise, by pornography. And so I kind of like to just open up by talking about what you've seen in your relationship with men and in dealing with men about issues, especially that they're fighting with internally, around this issue of pornography, because it's been just massively destructive in our homes, in our families, and it's so interlinked with human trafficking. Anyone want to jump on, and we can start this conversation?
Well, let me throw something out.
Yeah.
When I give a talk to men about trafficking in general, we're talking about the drivers, what law enforcement's doing, the victims, the survivors, and the foster care system. But the main thing that comes down to is a huge driver is pornography. And when I was growing up, you knew pornography was bad, but no reason why. So it didn't sound like that big of a deal. But now we understand what it really does to us. Like you're mentioning, I change when I watch pornography. I become not able to be the father, the husband. I can't live the way I was designed to live. And pornography is really destructive to the viewer as well as the victims. But just to help men understand, hey, this is bad for you. Isn't, over 40, huge increase in erectile dysfunction. Where'd that come from? People watching porn, and wouldn't you want to tell your friends that, your sons that, that this thing will hurt you, so let's stay away from it. And it's not something, I don't think we realize the damage that it causes to the one who's watching it until recently. So
we have erectile dysfunction in teenagers now because of pornography. I mean, it's just the ability to actually have a physical, intimate relationship with another human being is being taken away from them by this stuff.
Yeah.
Reverend Bowie?
Yeah, and I'd like to also talk about the addiction, the great addiction that pornography has, and effect it has upon men and women. And this addiction tends to drive you to places and spaces that you never would have imagined that you could go. And not only that, what has been proven that basically a majority, if not all, serial killers have been involved in pornography. So it continues to drive you with this addiction to a dark place. I don't think many people are aware of how dark and how evil pornography really is. And so hopefully through this talk, we can enlighten some individuals and also encourage individuals. And also, we're coming together because we're not here, men, to demonize you. We're not here to condemn you. Exactly. We're here actually extending an olive branch and saying, here, you don't have to do this alone. We're here to support you. And how can we support you? And how can we end this evil and stand together in this fight? And we know that we are stronger together.
Yeah, I think so many men are just feeling like they're going through what they're going through alone. And that's kind of what's happened with the difference between internet pornography and before, when you had to go down and steal or, you know, find a Playboy magazine under your dad's mattress. I mean, it's changed completely. We now have 24/7 access to the hardest core porn ever, and it's become this anonymous thing, which is what's really helping it to spread. So we all understand. I think all of us really understand the struggles that we all face today, and it's not just men. It's women, and it's also children, and that's the thing that's really frightening. That we have children who are getting their sex education from watching hardcore pornography at the age of 9 or 10. Yeah. Anyone else that has kind of experience in working with men? This, to me, this is something that always comes up. It's something that's always, you know, buried in there, but it's driving so much of the demand for human trafficking, and it's also kind of interplays in other ways.
Exactly.
I remember when I was. Oh no, go ahead, brother.
Okay, thank you. Patrick, yeah, I agree with you. You know, I've been to many men's groups, many men's studies, and you know, the topic is kind of glanced over, and it's kind of the hidden sin that men are not willing to talk or engage about. And that's exactly what we need to do. We need to talk to men, and we need to engage men about the harms and the ugliness behind it. And it's a difficult thing to deal with if you're dealing with it by yourself. And we just, you know, it'd be great for an outlet for all men to be able to come to somebody to help them with the struggle, to help them deal with this pain or addiction that they have. So that's the beauty of the bringing the men together to bring this out, to everybody.
Yeah. And Yusuf, what did you have to say?
Yeah, I remember when I was like 10, I was like 9 or 10, and I had a neighbor who was evicted from his apartment in the projects. So when he was evicted, they threw all his stuff out in the street, and he had boxes and boxes of porn. So my friends who were also like 10, 9, you know, we grabbed as many as we could and tried to hide them before the older boys saw them, and they would take them from us because they were so, you know, anxious for it. And they heard about it, and they grabbed some of it, and they found out where we have kept our stash. We were only able to keep a few of them, but this drive to find porn, you know, and have porn, and like you said, it's easier now. All you got to do is dial it up on your phone. But that is also teased by just the regular non-porn that we have with TV is very enticing. Our advertisements are very enticing. Women in bikinis and in commercials and things like that. So even if you have a porn habit, you're victimized or re-victimized by the objectivity of objectifying our sisters on TV and on movies and films. You can see like porn right on TV these days, right? So they're re-traumatized and re-victimized by this access that triggers them, and they go right back to porn. So it's all around us, and it makes us see our counterparts as this object to be obtained. I also remember in even just comic books, regular comic books, of course, the superhero women are very in bodysuits and all these kind of things. But do you remember back when they had those little advertisements that you could cut out and send away for X-ray glasses? I never bought them, and I never thought that they worked. But the advertisement was, you can see through the women's clothes. That was the advertisement. It wasn't that you could see through walls and see if somebody has a gun trying to hurt you before you go in your house. None of that, that you can see through a woman's clothes and see her body. So we have been like educated and primed to this pornography life.
Yeah, that is just really disturbing. Yeah, I think the thing that comes through this, I mean, watching mainstream situation comedies in the evening, and there's all these jokes and references to things that only someone watching porn would know. I've just noticed that increasing. So it's kind of this little, I get what that means. And so there's this constant confirmation of the normalcy of this kind of porn culture and porn view of each other. The halftime at the Super Bowl. I mean, all of it is just this normalization of looking at people a certain way. And I think that's, you know, when we look at what our true identity should be, right? I mean, our true identity should be that we're made in the image of the most awesome God, and we have this born connection to Him, and yet pornography takes it and gives you a new identity. It's going to make you think that you are a different person than what that true identity is, and that's what's disturbing. A friend of mine, Christopher Lenti, and he lives in Bangkok. He's been in Thailand for 20 years, and he he talks about these men coming from Europe and from America to come and pay for sex with sometimes 12-year-old boys or young children. And one study that showed that men, even within the course of 1 year of watching porn, they're willing to behave in ways that they would have been repulsed by the year before. And it has this transformative view. So now maybe I'm bisexual because porn is making me stimulated by something that had no appeal to me before I started watching porn. And I think that's where I think this is important. I mean, when I tried to bring in a discussion about pornography to one of the first conferences I organized in Long Beach, and there was a lot of rejection. It was kind of like, no, this is two different issues. Don't conflate the two with pornography and human trafficking. And now it's become much more commonly understood, but it's there's still kind of this resistance to kind of don't touch my porn. It's kind of like that's the victimless side of this. And human trafficking may be bad, but porn's not bad. But it's this change of identity. It's a change of what's normalized and how we look at each other. I think that's really, really harmful, and it feeds into then kind of
Right.
become participate in human trafficking.
Yeah, and Patrick, also, I think one of the things that is most important is we bring our faith to this issue. And so as us bringing our faith to the issue, we see it from a different perspective, as you talked about, understanding that we have been born and created in the image and likeness of God. So that's a whole nother mindset of trying to raise the consciousness, especially of our nation, which whether we admit it or not, morality is way down. And so we bring a sense of morality. And I believe not only as men, but men of faith, we bring the conscious. We must be the conscious for our nation. And the reason why pornography has been able to be so successful is that the church has remained so silent against it and men. And so we were, in essence, we became victims of our silence. So it's now very important that we speak out and speak loudly, for we're no longer victims, but we are victors, and use our voice of victory to help liberate and strengthen other men.
Yeah, and Pastor Bowie is right on point with the faith. The one thing I want to interject here is, as men, we have to be strong and realize that this is also an addiction. And like all addictions, there are resources that are in place in both the faith community and the nonprofit community that can assist you in overcoming this addiction. And once you overcome it, now you can be an example to kids, because as men, we have got away from having the talk with our young sons to get them to understand the true beauty of growing up abstaining from sex, or this is how you mature as a male into sex and a good relationship once you find the partner of your life. So we've got away from that. We've let television, we've let school, and we've let everybody except for ourselves as men who should be leading that education, educate our kids. We've got to get back to being the strong man, number one, owning our addiction or owning our sickness, that we get recovery, and then be that leader in the family and be that leader in the community. Say, hey, kids, this is how it should be done, not what you see on TV, not what you see in movies. And you just have to be strong. But there are resources out there that can guide you and educate you.
Yeah, Joe.
Yeah, I want to ask something, or I want to think about something here. We've heard about, the church has not spoken out. to a great extent, I know our priests, our deacons in formation, that's probably not something that they're really taught to speak out on. I'm wondering, it would seem like it would be a great help to our church leaders to have in their training, their formation, some kind of education on this. And I wonder if it's there yet. I kind of don't think so, but that might be a great place to at least be sure we're bringing it up to whoever leads those kind of formation programs. Like, hey, this is one way you're going to have to minister to people, because they're, the community is going to be impacted by this.
That you bring up such an excellent point, Joe. And I think there's been this for a long time, there's been this mystique that somehow what I do in private, I can take care of my business, and then I'll be a better priest, or I'll be a better pastor. I'll be, like, we've kind of excused our own weaknesses. And I think by creating kind of a shame-free embrace of wherever we're coming from, if you struggled with porn and you now want to step up and say, look, let's kind of bring it out, and let's start to really look at it honestly and openly, where we can start to kind of empower people who have struggled. Because I think as long as it stays in the dark, as long as it stays silent and secret, that's where the evil thrives. And so we need to create kind of an environments for men where they can say, yeah, man, I struggle with that. God, I spent 10 years, like, I just couldn't stop watching porn, but now I really want to do something to fight it. Let's welcome those men. Like, let's make an environment where they feel, yeah, I can turn that into now kind of a resource for me to help other men. So instead of it just being my guilt and my shame and my pain, this is now a resource I bring into the fight, and I can tap into other men who may be struggling with this because I've been through it myself. And I think we really need to create that, and then bring in all of the resources, because there are a lot of resources. I think I led the Conquer series, which is a faith-based approach, and worked with a group of men. And it was inspiring to see these, some of the men told me that they'd been through other groups, they'd been attending different things in order to try to deal with their issues. But the Conquer series was the first time they felt they could really start to speak honestly to this group of men and really talk about what they've been through and what they're going through and what it's done to their families. And it was a really powerful experience. And it's very bringing in the latest science that we understand about the brain, which is very liberating. I think that we understand, the science and what happens neurologically when we watch porn. It gives us an empowerment then to really start to take much more of a stand and more control over our lives. So I think education of pastors and priests, bringing it to that level, and without the shame and guilt, without the blaming them and like threatening that they're going to lose their position if they speak honestly. We need to create this, and then pull their voices into the fight. Anyone else? Isaac, do you have awareness of other programs that are working with men?
So with our program, the Slingshots, we actually, as we talk to men and buyers, we recommend Celebrate Recovery, which is a addiction recovery program through Saddleback Church in Southern California. And it has actually been successful with our buyers being 60% of non-return buyers to purchasing of sex. So that's one avenue that you can reach out and research. And if you need to, you can contact us and put you in contact with Celebrate Recovery.
Yeah, I think that's one thing we can make available, a lot of these resources. I think, Fight the New Drug. I just recently was talking to Clay Olson, he's one of the co-founders of Fight the New Drug. And they've done just amazing work of working with millennials and younger people, and really approaching it not from a moralistic or a religious perspective, but really like looking at it from the perspective of science. And this is what happens. And they have just such a great resource in former porn stars who have come out and talked about what the industry really does and what really is happening there. That's really powerful, especially with younger people. So I think there are resources. Fight the New Drug is a really good resource. There's a lot of others as well, and I'm just getting to learn more about what's happening also in Canada because of the now challenging MindGeek. The executives from MindGeek had to testify yesterday in a session with the Parliament and explain why they had 150 videos of girls actually being raped that they were making money from and allowing on their platform. And so, you know, there's a lot happening now that are, I think a lot's going to happen with that issue in the news as this comes out into our media, where people are going to start to look at this is what the porn industry is doing. It's making use of 13-year-old girls who are actually being raped and distributing their porn, and then we're watching it and feeling this is okay for me to watch and get some pleasure from. So we're living in a really exciting time. I think there's a lot of potential for change now as we inspire more men to really take this on and to stand up and to take their brokenness and make that a weapon that they can now use in helping other men. We're going to see a dramatic change quickly.
Yes. You know, also, Patrick, one of the things I think if we would be honest with ourselves, that we have been far too narrow when it comes to sex, period, in the church.
Yeah.
And what has happened, the reality of it, that we've allowed the world to give us our sex education and our perspective on sex. And today, as you say, it is a very exciting time, and it's time for us to be able to be more bold and begin to teach, not just on pornography, but teach on sex as a whole, God's plan, and to be able to not be ashamed or thinking that it's something that needs to be put in the closet. But it's a very natural part of life. It's one of the most important parts of life when we look at it and teach it from God's perspective. And it's a very beautiful thing. And we have stood by and just allowed the world to just defile it and to cause it to be corrupt. And especially as men, it's very important, as I think Isaac has said, that we take our place as the head of households and being able to have these courageous conversations with our children and with one another. And, you know, and as we move forward, I believe that we will be able to make an incredible positive impact in this area.
Yeah, absolutely. How about Yusuf, for you?
Yes, in the Islamic community, we're struggling with the same thing about the world teaching us how to raise our children, teaching us about how sex education should be, what a family is, and we as people of faith, we need to make sure that we demonstrate what that is, so our children have something to see, something to model after. So if we want our kids and our boys to grow up to be strong men, good husbands, good fathers, we need to be strong men, good husbands, good fathers. So starting with this family dynamic, which is the microcosm of a nation, is the family. If we start with the family and include all the things that make a family strong, including proper and healthy sexual relationships in that component, like Reverend Bowie was saying, that we really need to be the example and teach a class. We need to have a class on manhood, on fathership, on brotherhood, and that way we give the children and the youth something to actually see and reference when it comes to, we can't block their phones. We can block their phones to a certain extent, but they can get around that, right? We can't block the world from our children, but we can give them a comparison of something wholesome versus the other things they may encounter in the world. So this is I think a responsibility of men of faith and fathers of faith and husbands of faith.
Absolutely. That's good. I mean, it's
well said.
Something to aspire to. Absolutely. That was excellent. Yeah.
And
It is so true.
It's exactly something that we need to bring to the forefront with other men. It's okay to be a man of God. It's okay to be able to share with everybody manhood, It's nothing wrong with it. It's nothing to be ashamed about, but it's a good thing, man. It's a good thing for everyone. It's a good thing for our children. It's a good thing for our wives. It's a good thing for the community. But this manhood, also needs to be shared, in regards to the porn life, which is so easily, obtained nowadays, and then so lightly taken also. And it hurts people, and we have to let people know the harm and the hurt that's behind this world that everybody keeps secret. So if we could go to our churches, speak to our men's group, and start there, and then later on to anybody in the community who allows us to come and share what the damage could be done and what harm can be done and what we can do as men to stop it.
Yeah. Yeah, as we show, I mean, it's a balance of those two things, right? Showing the harm, showing that, but also really modeling and demonstrating the positive. We really need to. So we want kids to aspire to, man, I want that. That's what I want. I want, the kind of intimacy that makes two people love each other for 40 years, 50 years, a lifetime. I mean, I feel I've spoken in groups before where I'm the only person who had parents who stayed together. And I now take care of my 97-year-old mother who has dementia, but she talks about my dad, how lucky she was and how great he was. And, I mean, their relationship really grew as they maintained kind of an intimacy, and as they maintained a kind of a love for each other and modeled that for their 7 children. I mean, it was just so powerful, and to hear her now is just so beautiful. Like when she talks about my dad, and he died in 1995, and she's still talking about him every day. It's like it's such a beautiful thing. I heard about this one young guy that just really touched my heart. But this is a teenage boy who had an empty picture frame next to his bed in his room, and someone asked him, "Why do you have an empty picture frame?" And he goes, "That's for my future wife." And it's like he was thinking, I'm preparing myself for her. I haven't met her yet. I don't know who she's going to be, but she's coming, and I'm going to be ready for her. I'm going to be the right kind of guy for her. And God, it was just such a wonderful thing. And that's what we need. And I think that this is where the church has kind of dropped the ball. And we've also allowed popular media to say what we believe. They've been able to shape us as narrow-minded, prudish people who don't appreciate sex, who are anti-sex. And then that's where, to be anti-porn now equals anti-sex in the media. And we have to really change that.
Yeah. Hey, I was going to say, we want to be heroes to our kids and teach them to be heroes too, right? Do the hard things because it's good. Can you mention FatherCon? You mentioned it, but that sounds like an effort to do that kind of thing to raise up fatherhood. How does that work?
Well, that was it. So we've held 2 so far, and we're planning now for the 3rd. And I'd love all of you to participate in that. So we're working towards November. Hopefully, God willing, we'll actually be able to meet together. Because I would prefer to have it be a live event than a virtual one. But it was a chance to really look at fatherhood, how important fatherhood is, and how inspiring being the father that we want to be is. We also look at the derailing. So we deal with pornography. We've had workshops. We've had like a variety of speakers who talk on topics relevant to men, and specifically, it's not like another men's group. I think there's a lot of men's groups, but this is specifically fathers. So whether it's you see fatherhood in the future, or whether you're currently a father, or whether you're a father figure, which we desperately need. We have hundreds of thousands of children who are growing up without a dad and desperately need one. And so the more we can inspire men to step up as mentors. But it's, we want to take it from this year. We're now working on building it into something bigger than just an annual event, but to have FatherCon be something that continues and grows, and we can give support to anyone who's trying to recognize the significance of fathers in the lives of their sons and their daughters, because it's irreplaceable. And we have within human trafficking, you find, it's not a mistake, and it's not by accident that a lot of these guys make the girls call them daddy. And this person is assuming the position that they feel a longing for in their lives, and they're going to try to put themselves in that position as kind of a false father. But we really need to restore fatherhood as something that you really want to, that men really want to be. It's that, like you said, Joe, it's that heroic position. And it's been kind of diminished in significance over the last 40 years, 40, 50 years, where we've seen this real, portrayal of fathers as being irresponsible and unnecessary. The rise of the single mother is she can take it all on, she can do it all, man's not necessary. We really have to change that, because all the science is now showing, all the data on how children grow up. You need the balance of father and mother. So FatherCon is really my approach to it. How do we get men together, create a safe space, a really inclusive space for fathers to stand and say, yeah, I haven't been doing such a good job, but I want to do it better, and create a support for each other. So that's that. And so I'm hoping in November we can have a really powerful event that can inspire an awful lot of men and future fathers. So we can get some young guys in that are aspiring to be dads. So
yeah, FatherCon is very important to me. I educate my sons. I have a 13 and 14-year-old sons, and all the time I talk to them about fatherhood, about husbandry, all of these things as I live it. So I try to, it's very important for us to be that example. Even when I make my wife laugh, I kind of consider myself funny. I think I'm funny, right? But I try to make my wife laugh. And I was teaching my sons about that. I asked them, why I always make her laugh and I always, do all these things. And then they asked me why. And I quote from them from the Quran, our holy book. When God made Adam and Eve in our holy book, when Adam woke up from his sleep and Eve was beside him, he knew that she was his wife, but he didn't know why she was made. He didn't know why. So he asked her, he said, why were you created? And her answer was this, and it's very beautiful. She said, I was created to live with you in peace and tranquility. This is a two-side process, peace and tranquility, not violence, not oppression, not any of those other things, peace and tranquility. That was it. And that says so much about what our relationship should be. So I live with my wife in peace and tranquility. I even try to make her laugh before she goes to sleep, just so she can have those endorphins. You know what I mean? Thinking of me, she was laughing, you know what I mean, and smiling. So this FatherCon is super important to me, and I would hope to get it off the ground in San Diego with your brother's help.
excellent. The last one we had people from Texas, from Sacramento, from all over, and everyone wanted to bring it home. Everyone wanted to bring it back to wherever they came from, and that's really the hope. It's so interesting how the con too took on different meaning. So we had Father Con was like, we had these guys who had come out of prison and they're going, yeah, I'm a con. I want to get back back as a dad with my kids. Yeah, that's for me. And then others, I mean, my thinking was con as a conversation, like we're beginning this conversation as dads. And then also as it took the shape of a conference, but so there's a lot of different ways that we can see the con in there. But yeah, that's so inspiring. Yeah, so let's do it. Let's make FatherCon San Diego. We need to get it spread, because it's kind of a unique look, because it links to human trafficking, because that's where I come from. And I really saw it in the context of human trafficking. The worst thing for a father is to have your child be exploited that way. And it's like, how do we become the protectors of our families, and also those who show, like the coming of age? What does it mean to become a man? And also, how do we have a daughter who's going to be impervious to the temptations that, meeting some guy on Instagram? It's going to be that link that she has with the first man who's loved her through her father. So very powerful.
Patrick,
And to understand what a good relationship looks like. I'm sorry, go ahead, Isaac. Tell us about the thing you guys are doing too to protect women by teaching guys that they're victims here. It's not just nobody's hurt by it.
well, I wanted to touch on the FatherCon, and so the FatherCon can be actually used in two separate ways, both for us men. That way we could speak to our neighbors, you talk to the guys around you, invite them,
Yeah.
and also talk with the men in your different churches that you're close with. So you're bringing both the believer and the non-believer together for a common goal. And I think that that's a beautiful thing, because when you see, the model of a believer in the church and how he's leading his family, and then you get a unbeliever seeing, okay, well, everything is not all roses inside the walls of the church, but I do have an example of where I can go, a goal that I can reach in my family, and reaching out to the community so they don't feel excluded.
Yeah.
So that would be a great thing I think for Father Connor. I was thinking that in my head. I was like, yeah, we could marry the two together here. And we, as our project in Slingshots, our goal is to really not demean the buyer, but get the buyer to understand that this is, yes, it may be something you're doing for the first time, or this may be something you're doing for the 10th time. Whichever avenue you're on, this could be the last time, but you have the decision, and the power is totally within your mind and within you to make that stand. Do you want to be the guy that calls back, or do you want to be the guy that this is the last call or the last response, to an ad like this that you'll ever make? So the decision really comes up to you. And we do it in such a loving way. And that's what I always, tell my guys is, we're approaching this with a heart of love and not a heart of aggression. Because as guys, we all know if you demean or you come across as aggressive, the message, whatever you're saying, will never ever be a substance, or it will never even be a thought. Once the person is the guy's out of your sight, he's going to forget everything you ever said. But if you bring it from a place of love and a place of compassion and empathy, it's amazing how one word in a conversation can resonate in a person's mind when they're not around you. So that's what we try and do from our organization and the Slingshots. It's really just shower these guys with love. Yes, they're, doing something that is obviously wrong. I mean, morally wrong. And the world has told them it's wrong. Everybody around them tells them it's wrong. But do we show love? At the end of the day, we still have to love our fellow man. We can look at kings and leaders in the Bible who showered with love. Moses, even in anger, spoke out of love. He led with love. Paul led with love, even though he was trained to be a killer, but he led with love. And it all starts with a heart of love. So as we love one another, we can have these hard conversations to have as men, and we've grown up to say, well, that's a conversation I don't want to have. In actuality, you can have it if you open your heart and this is a man of love. God made this man, so I have a responsibility to, number one, love him. I don't have to like his actions, but I do have to love him as a person, as a man. And as I understand that, now I can speak to him in a more caring way, a more empathetic way, and we can have these tough conversations. So that's what we try and do.
Yes.
And I really feel that this is something that needs to be mainstream. I see that we're all here men of faith and men of God, and it's a passion, it's a love that we have, but we also need to make it mainstream, that any man can come for help. If we just confine it to the church, well, great, well, that's the men of the church. but I want to see this as a movement, men of against human trafficking. And the way that we do that is we got to bring it to everyone. Now, I mean, great, it starts with the church, and we don't even have to approach it. I mean, yes, I would love to see all men that we approach come to know the Lord, but I have such a passion for this that, that could be a far secondary, third, fourth, layer of this. It's the main layer is the fight against human trafficking in my heart. And I want other men to be able to come, not that you have to be a man of God, but just a man, period, that wants help, that seeks it, that they could come to knowing this issue, this problem, and how to fight it.
Yeah, I think we all agree with you, but this is something that we have to realize, Rogelio, is that one, if we don't lead with our faith, it goes any and everywhere, and that's been the problem. That there must be something that drives the force from a higher place than what's in place. What we've done as the mosque or as the church, we've allowed the world to direct us, and we have not stood on the principles that we live by. And it's not that we're going to require them to be a man of God, but we must, as men of God, hold up the standards in which we live by. And that is very important if we're going to defeat this.
I agree with you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. And I've listened, brother. I'm just meeting you, but I'm loving your involvement and your passion. So I just want you to know, I look forward to getting to know you, look forward to working with you, man, and us standing together. Yeah, this group, you'll find we're not about exclusion. We're, as much as we can, about inclusion. Amen.
Amen to that.
Let it shine. Let it shine.
Amen.
I think getting into closing here, but I was reminded of that African saying when you greet someone, you say, "I see you."
Yes.
And then also like in Buddhism, where there's like when you bow to another person, you're not bowing to all of the external stuff. You're bowing to that enlightened being that exists within each one of us. And Father Boyle's radical kinship that he talks about, where you're looking at this gang members doing these horrible things, but inside you're seeing inside that guy is this original Christ figure. There's inside this guy is the nature of God. And so I'm going to respond to that and relate to that in this person, and then have people want to step up and be that. I think there's such power in our ability to approach someone and see them for that holy, uncorrupted original center that's in there. And then they want to step up and be that. And I think the world around them, I wish it was true, Isaac. You say that everyone's telling them that it's wrong. I wish that was true, but there's constant messaging that going out and paying for sex and watching porn is normal and it's okay. And there's a pat on the back and a wink, a nudge, nudge, wink, wink, and an encouragement from the world around. And that's what's confusing is your conscience and that original mind inside of you saying, this doesn't feel right, this isn't good. But all around you, you're getting these messages saying, it's okay, everyone does it. You're just part of us all. We're all there doing it. And I think we need to see that. We need to start treating each other and start looking at other men from the standpoint, inside of you is this incredible man, is this incredible father. And that's what I'm going to relate to that in you and bring that out of you. So any final statements, anything that somebody wants to say here in closing? I think this has been an exciting, interesting conversation.
I thank God for each and every one of you, and I look forward to continuing to work with you and continue to build deep and meaningful relationships with each of you as we move forward and we work together to end human trafficking in all of its forms, and fashion.
Amen.
Yeah.
We all say amen.
Amen. So let's fight human trafficking by making our wives laugh.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
I got that one. I got that one.
In the big and small ways, we're taking it down. We're bringing human trafficking to an end. And that's a big one. Thank you, Yusuf. So I want to thank everyone for joining us, for participating, and for being a part of this rising movement for men to really say human trafficking has got to come to an end, and it's within our power, it's within our network, our sphere, the organizations we belong to, the schools, the neighborhood associations, and within our own houses. We're going to see the end of human trafficking just born from that place within us. And as more men kind of join us and stand with us, we'll see this end quickly. So I want to thank you all again for joining us, for being here today. Please join us again when we come out with another interesting conversation for engaging men in the fight against human trafficking. Thank you each so much. Thank you, everyone.
Welcome.